Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper. And I'm adding a new feature now that is related to the Indian Express. Alternate day or once in a week, I want to discuss the Indian Express newspaper too. So, the ideas page, explained, and editorials. These are the three things I want to discuss once in a week. So, in this case, why Jats want a quota by Christopher Jefferlot. Now, not just the Jats issue, why the land owning class is moving towards an agitation towards the reservations. What are the reasons behind that? You know that the India and Bharat. So these people, as anthropologist Srinivasan says that a dominant caste which has adequate numbers and is a land owning class. So in this case, previously the dominance of one over the other, it was present in the Bharat. Now, the India is the center of the economic activity and more employment opportunities are created in urban areas. So these opportunities are created for the well-educated and who has, modern skills or service sector skills. So this land owning class, it is squarely away from this educational and modernization phase of the economy. They are unable to catch up to the changes that have occurred in the economy, and the Jats are very reasonably educationally backward. And on the other hand, in the globalization era, if you take the Patels, the small scale industry, it was renegated backwards, or the small scale industry has no strong presence. In this case, the Patels, they have to become more employees in the big industries rather than self-fulfilled small-scale industry owners. So they also started taking for their political advantage to stress for the reservations. And third thing is more sociological, where these people believe that their hitherto existing power has been lost because the power distance between the lower caste and the higher caste is decreasing, and the economic empowerment and also an educational affirmativeness of the Dalits, it has led to a sense of loss among the upper caste, and they want to have the similar advantage for the economically forward movement. And the growth of the services sector and agriculture, fall in agriculture, you know that. So the land owning class, these are slowly losing the actual size of the land, economies of scale are decreasing because of the fragmentation of the land. The mechanization was also not possible. So in this circumstances, agriculture is no more remunerative. So finally, we can also say that after liberalization, the number of jobs in the public sector have decreased and the number of jobs in the private sector are increasing. So in the private sector, what matters the most is the merit of an individual as no reservations are available as of now. So in this case, educational opportunities are very much necessary. So more than the employment opportunities, in a liberalized and globalized economy, the need for the educational opportunities, it is seen as the major reason behind this particular quota agitations. Coming to the C. Raja Mohan's article. So now, with regard to the Nepal, so the China card of the Nepal did not work well. And similarly, the Sri Lanka also played the China card during the Rajapaksa government, and it also did not go well. So in this case, India shall stop worrying about the China because it being the world's second largest economy, its influence is bound to present across the countries, including South Asia. And the second thing is, India's lack of persistence on a dialogue with the neighbors, that is one thing which is making it ad hoc, and also lack of a standard arrangement is making it much depleted, or else I will say discontinuous and irregular. Now India discontinued the dialogue with Pakistan in 2014 and to be resumed only in 2015 Because of this, more than the world's focus on terrorism, it is shifting to the India to start the dialogue on dialogue with Pakistan. So in this case, India always shall keep its communication channels open with its neighbors. So added to that, the neighbors also tries to involve the India with regard to one or the other their problems. If you take the Maldives, when the former president was arrested, they sought the India's direct intervention. So in these circumstances, how India has to take the things forward is one big question. So these are the things, the retrieving the momentum. So India has to take forward its engagement with Nepal, Pakistan, etc. Now again, the Jats are backward, there is a reason. Majorly, unlike the Patidars, the Jats are agricultural community and they are not equivalent to Jamindars. These are a peasant community majorly and they are very educationally backward. So if social and educational backwardness is the reason to provide for the reservations, the Jats also fall in the educational backwardness or educationally backward community. Coming to this article of Mr. Govindarao in Hindu, what it says is this. In India, we are going through a tough phase. One way, the fiscal consolidation to maintain the credibility is the goal. On the other way, we have to revive the economic growth to maintain higher levels of employment for youth. So in this, the public investment is the only way forward as the private investment is unable to take it along. So in this case, some people have suggested for the pump priming of the economy. So what is meant by this pump priming? So in case of a recession or where the private investment is not coming forward, the government has to take forward the lead. Our government has to ensure the investments. So it's bound to increase the fiscal deficit. You know that our fiscal deficit targets are around 3.5 for this year and 3% of the GDP for the next year. So maintaining the growth and not compromising on the fiscal deficit is a delicate balance. So in this case, on revenue side in India, the revenue expansion is still very low. If you see, the tax to GDP ratio is just 17%. And widening of the tax base is one thing which we need to seriously look at. And added to that, India holds investments in many of the public sector undertakings. The disinvestment can be a way forward. And added to that, on the tax front, we have to deal with the minimum alternate tax, enactment of the GST as soon as possible, and reduction of the corporate taxes is already suggested in corporate, is looking for that particular quick development. In this case, resolving the tax disputes will unlock the 5 lakh plus crores of rupees. So immediately government shall take that particular step forward. And the second thing is, the government stocks in SUTI, that is, the specific undertaking of UTI, Union Trust of India, that can unlock 60,000 crores of rupees. Implementation of Calcutta Task Force with regard to PPPs will end the policy paralysis. Finally, removal of the exemptions to the taxes and taking forward of GST will increase the revenue of the government. On expenditure side, we have to streamline the subsidies. So for that, the author suggests for the JAM Trinity and cash transfers need to be undertaken. And the food and fertilizer subsidies are the major problem today to the government as fuel subsidies are coming down due to fall in the commodity prices. So urea, the price has to be increased. The major reason is it is leading to the imbalanced nutrition of the soil and it is also creating a huge expenditure on the governmental pocket. So finally we can say it this way. An additional borrowing by the government will automatically lead to the crowding of the capital for the private sector, which in the long run will not help the economy. So instead of expanding the fiscal deficit, government can bring in the structural changes with regard to its tax administration and also with regard to the streamlining the subsidies that can improve the situation. So the government has to think in this structural realignment of the economy rather than finding a shortcut solution such as increasing the fiscal deficit or increasing its borrowing. So here, lower the corporate tax. Now it is purely, they talk about three things. One is how the governmental spending has to be improved to revive the demand. Health and education, infrastructure, these are the three areas where government can come forward with its investments. And banking sector needs an overhaul. So in this case, the growing stressed assets or NPS is the major problem. So a national asset management company has to be created. NPS has to be transferred to the asset management company. And liquidation of the banks, recapitalization of the banks will bring in or revive the credit cycle, and this further leads to the private sector investments to flow in. And with regard to the public sector, the government can compromise on the fiscal deficit, that's what is the author's opinion, to raise its or else to improve the growth process. Coming to the nationalism and liberalism, I love one statement over here. The nationalism can exist and liberalism can exist in their piecemeal in any country. So these are not absolute and they are very much subjective. So a nationalism without liberalism is very dangerous. A liberalism without nationalism, or else liberalism without the protection of the state, which will be ineffective. For example, in the court, Mr. Kannaya, when he was beaten, the state has to rescue him. Then only his liberal voice will be protected. On the other hand, the nationalism without liberalism, it has led to so-called as Nazism, fascism, which has destructed the entire world. So here, Mr. Rabindranath Tagore's opinions, if we take, nation as a unit, he believed a force or a power structure. And this power structure is going to derogate or else is going to take over the mind out of an individual, and it's going to dehumanize an individual. So that's why he was always opposed to the nationalism. More than the moral values, the mechanical considerations and structuring the minds of the people with patriotism or nationalism is going to create a hatred towards the others. So this kind of nationalism is not good for any country according to Tagore. So from these words of the Tagore, we can call him anti-national, but we cannot say that he is not patriotic. So the nationalism and patriotism, they need not be one and the same. A person may be patriotic and being something called as an anti-national. That's what is the essence of this article. Coming to the referendum in Britain. Now, on last Friday, the deal happened between Britain and the European Union. The Brexit, which is called as exit of Britain from the European Union, will have long-term consequences for the organization. So in this case, what the Britain wants, the first thing is, the Eastern European countries and the people that may flood into the Britain, it may overshadow or else overburden the entire welfare structure. The Britain wants to limit the European Union members working in their country and their welfare only for 4 years. It means it don't want to take the commitment of the welfare of these particular people. And the second is, the Britain do not use the euro as its currency. So it don't want to be disadvantaged in any way with regard to the financial management in the Europe. Finally, the Britain is talking about, our European Union is talking about an obligation to strive for an ever closer nation. The Britain says that it shall be exempted from this particular obligation, that is, bringing the European Union as one single nation or ever closer to a nation. So for that particular thing, it has to be exempted for Britain. So in this case, let us try to understand few more things. The Scotland issue is pending for the Britain. Why the Cameron is pushing for the referendum? Once the summer comes up, the immigration from the North Africa and West Asia is expected to increase to the Europe. And then generally the people's sentiments will go against the European Union. And the second thing is the Scotland referendum. Scotland wants to move close to the European Union. If referendum goes against to the Britain continuing in the European Union, it may have strong repercussions in the Scotland. So finally, it is like this. Cameron wants to continue in the European Union only according to his conditions and conveniences. On the other hand, European Union, though Britain is not using euro as its currency or is not a part of the Schengen border area, in spite of this Britain's economic might and its permanent status in the United Nations Security Council and its diplomatic reach, something which it is not ready to lose. So that's where the referendum, in these circumstances, the referendum is happening. And coming to Tamil Nadu politics, now the polarization of the politics on the caste is very much visible in Tamil Nadu. In spite of this, the bipolarization into a DMK and AIDMK is still very strong. In this case, post Jaya and post Karunanidhi era, the Tamil parties, especially caste-based parties, they are trying to see a chance for their existence as independent parties. So what I want to see here over here, I want you to focus over here is this. Now, welfare measures, the Tamil Nadu has the best public distribution system that can protect the people against the inflation. And populism, Tamil Nadu is known for its populistic politics. So if multiple parties comes into the election foray, then how these populistic policies are bound to change is one question which we need to observe. So these are the things for the today's discussion. Thank you very much.